Alright, in this video I want to talk about being unloving. Now, this is kind of silly to me. It seems like a waste of time, but at a couple of the forums I've joined on MeWe, they're full of Christians that are upset about the name calling. And they say that this is unloving. And I see it as just silly and foolish, for so many reasons. Because you start discussing something, and then it turns from a discussion into an argument where you're really trying to show how you are right and the other person's wrong, and they're doing the same thing. And then it turns into, from there, a debate where you're just beating each other over the head with facts and opinions and what have you, right? And then it's easy to get caught up in your emotions and get a little bit upset because you think the other person's being stubborn, you think they're attacking you, and vice versa, and you just call each other some names, right? So what? Brothers and sisters fight and they get heated up. There's nothing wrong with that. You're gonna call each other names. Whoop-de-doo. La-di-da. There's so much worse things that can be going on and that could be happening to us that this shouldn't be an issue. I'm not condoning name calling and saying go ahead and call each other names. I'm just saying it's not a big deal. And I made the point that if someone called me a troll in one of these chats or forums, I wouldn't care because I'm not a troll. But you know what? The troll would not like being called a troll because then people are going to start looking and thinking, hey, this person is a troll, right? They don't want to be exposed, so they want you to shut up and they want to silence you. They want to make sure that is censored. So they're going to say something like, you're being unloving for calling them a name. It's like, no, I'm just pointing out what you are. You're a troll and you're being a troll. I think you should stop. And then they just try to get everybody to be like, see, he's unloving, da 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 da, and get everybody to turn on you as if what you're doing is somehow wrong, to try to warn people and help people out, to say that this guy's just playing you guys, right? And I think we're making too much of a big deal about it. And I think it's because a lot of people are just okay with letting the wolves in sheep's clothing run around among the sheep. We have to know that not everyone around us is a sheep. The wheat and the tares grow together, and there's wolves in sheep's clothing, right? And we're at war here. It's a spiritual war, not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual powers in heavenly places, right? So these spirits turn our brethren into fools, getting them to believe false doctrine and such things. We war against that. We war against darkness. We war against lies and errors, right? In Jesus, there is no darkness. There is no lies. And if we're in Him, we're not just going to accept sitting around with the darkness and the lies, because that means we're not in Him. It would be a lie to say that we are. So we either have to remove ourselves from that situation or remove that darkness, that error from among the group. And sometimes it goes one way and sometimes it goes the other. What I mean by that is you got like a group, let's say a church. They're all meeting at a church and there's like, let's just say 25 people that regularly go every week, right? But there's an error that's coming in from somebody there. And sometimes you rebuke that error and you end up just pushing that guy out the door, right? The error is removed. But sometimes it's the opposite. Sometimes that error takes over and you're the only one standing up for the truth, or maybe you and a couple other people, and you're sticking to your guns and you ended up being booted out, right? So sometimes the truth prevails in an assembly and sometimes it fails. I don't want to say that as if, the truth fails. I mean, it fails to dominate in that situation because more people following the error and they had, control. And, that's just how it is. We see with Israel, when Jesus came, a good chunk of the Israelis did not believe in Jesus, did not follow him, so a remnant was taken out. They weren't to stay and mingle with their brothers, the rest of the Jews, in their error, right? So we don't do the same thing. There's nothing wrong with that. But they take it as, you're being unloving. And it's like, no, protecting the sheep from the wolves. Not everybody is at the same level of Christianity. Some are babes, some are adults, some are more knowledgeable than others, so they can get led astray pretty easy. So you got to do something to stand up. You don't just go, oh, I'm going to say nothing about this guy preaching an error or a straight up lie or just trolling. Because it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? About the fools. Because if you don't say anything, you're going to let the fool think that he's wise. But then if you say something, that fool is going to hate you and attack you and what you said. The wise man will take correction. See, that's how you can tell some of these people they don't have the spirit, or that they're just very immature, because you stand up and you correct them, they start attacking what you're saying, and they start attacking you, right? Like they're a ravenous wolf. And then they say you're unloving for pointing this out, right? It's all just a tactic to get you to shut up and to just let the wolves run among the sheep, devouring who they want to devour. And I noticed what will happen in some of these groups, that happened to me on the Facebook forums, is that let's say you could be chatting with like 3 or 4 people who are all on the same side of an argument, and they'll each be calling you names here and there, right? So they each end up calling you a name like 10, 15 times, and you didn't say anything back. But then the one time you say something back, like you're all just being a bunch of trolls, you're all a bunch of pricks, all of a sudden what do they call the mediator, the guy who runs the forum, they come in and get on you for the one time you called them a name, and says nothing about the 15 times each one of them's called you names. They don't say a thing. And then sometimes they will, remove your comments, or they ban you from being able to respond for the day or a few days, or they just boot you out of the forum. And it's just all like this clique. And it's the same thing, we see throughout history. We've seen it done to Jesus, where they look for any excuse to get rid of him. And it wasn't until he did the unloving thing of making a whip and whipping the money changers, getting them out of the temple, that they were like, what authority do you have to do this? Right? And they were like, okay, we got to kill this guy. They were trying to do it before, but now they were like, we got to do this. Let's do it. And that's just how it's going to be. If you stand up and you don't put up with the lies and the errors and the straight up bullshit, there's a good chance that they may want to get rid of you. They might not literally kill you, but they'll try to kill your reputation, your good name, your character, how people see you, and just get rid of you. I've experienced it many times, whether it was in forums or actually physically in real life. But anyway, I want to get into some scripture here, because I know some of these people say if you call your brother a fool, you're in danger of hellfire. And this is obviously something that has to do with the Jews. I'm not going to get too much into it, because I'm going to show where Paul calls people fools. Right? He says, for ye suffer fools gladly, seeing ye yourselves are wise. For ye suffer if a man bring on you into bondage, if a man devour you, if a man take of you, if a man exalt himself, if a man smite you on the face. Right? He's saying, he's calling people fools who they want to bring you into bondage. So they want to bring you into bondage of the law, to put you back under the law. You're saved by your works of the law. Somebody who believes that is a fool. Paul right here calls them a fool. Right? They're wolves. They want to devour you. They want to take of you. They want the tithes, like a Judas. They exalt themselves to think like they're blessed from God and they're, the head and the leader of that little church, that little assembly going on, right? So they even want to smite you on the face, right? Is just, you suffer these fools, yet somebody says that they're fools, and that you get all upset when Paul himself is calling them fools. Don't call names. That's unloving, Paul. What's wrong with you? Be more like Jesus. Here again in 2 Corinthians. But some man will say, how are the dead raised up? And with what body do they come? Thou fool! That which thou sowest is not quickened, except it die. Right? So he's calling someone a fool for not grasping and comprehending the scriptures. Like your body's kind of like a seed here, right? It dies, and that's what brings forth the soul, right? The spirit. Because the corruption cannot inherit incorruption. You got to put on a new body, right? It's kind of like a butterfly. You're a caterpillar that goes into the cocoon and you become a butterfly. But the caterpillar, in a sense, has to die. It's broken down and rearranged and made into a butterfly, right? Well, it's kind of like what you do. You die on the cross. You can die literally. And it separates the soul from the flesh like a circumcision. And he's calling people fools who are not grasping the scripture. So there's twice Paul supposedly condemned for calling his brother a fool. Right? But anyway, let's get into some things that Jesus actually said to religious leaders. So these would be, your priests and your pastors, even the Pope, the high priest and whatnot. So these people, Jesus says, you know what, I'm going to read a little bit more. So at verse 30 here in Matthew 23 says, and say, if we had been in the days of our fathers, we would not have been partakers with them in the blood of the prophets. Wherefore ye be witnesses unto yourselves that ye are the children of them which killed the prophets. Fill ye up then the measure of your fathers, ye serpents, ye generation of vipers. How can ye escape the damnation of hell? Right? These are the religious leaders. He's calling them serpents, vipers, and they're hellbound. Yet, if you say that to a Christian preaching the same doctrine the Pharisees and Sadducees taught, you're an unloving SOB. Which, you can't say because that's unloving. But that's what they want to say. I just know it. A little bit of a joke there. Anyway, John chapter 8, verse 44, he's talking to these Pharisees, Sadducees, religious leaders again. He says, ye are of your father the devil, and the lusts of your father ye will do. So calling them of their father the devil. Calling these religious leaders of Satan. Yet if you say that, you're unloving and you're crazy and all this stuff. But there's wolves among the sheep. You can't just quietly sit there and let them walk among us. Some of us are sheep that are just deceived and foolish and what yet not. Yeah. But that does not mean we don't say anything. We don't sometimes use a harsh rebuke. Because Jesus even made a whip and beat the money changers with it. I mean, Christians, they don't know what love is. They really don't. Getting all butthurt over some name calling. You call me a fool. Call me stupid. Oh, wah, oh, wah, oh, wah. Who cares? Get over it. Jesus was beaten, humiliated, nailed to a cross, which shows him being cursed, and then he dies, treated as a common criminal, as a thief. And he says, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Well, you can't forgive your brother for calling you a name. What's up with that? And then you talk about love. Well, if you love them, forgive them. Understand that, hey, sometimes we get emotional. We get caught up in things and we start name calling. Whoop-de-doo. Whoopity-doo. It shouldn't even be something that needs to be brought up, but apparently it does. All a bunch of children here getting upset about the silliest things. But anyway, that sums it up. I could get into more, such as God sending a flood, throwing people into a lake of fire. But that's unloving. Get out of here. You don't even know what love is. Love is not just being a pushover and enabling sin, enabling lies and darkness, enabling the wolves to walk among the sheep. No, that's cowardice. That's weakness. That's what that is. It's being a pushover. It's being a sap. Being a punk. That's what that is. And it's a bunch of name calling right there. But that's the truth. And if you don't like it, you're going to say it's unloving because you can't handle the truth. But anyway, thanks for watching and take care.